Welcome to Behavioral Health Today, a podcast brought to you by the Triad Network. This podcast is designed to share trending topics occurring within the world and our communities and bring them a behavioral and mental health perspective. Welcome to Behavioral Health Today. I'm your host, Peter Fenger, and my guest today is Celia Bray. Celia is an Australian psychologist and the founder of Somatic Psychology Australia, with over 25 years of experience supporting individuals, organizations, and communities both in Australia and internationally. Her work is grounded in somatic therapy and experiential practices, rooted in the belief that true healing and wisdom comes from listening to the body, not just the mind. Celia's approach has been shaped by extensive global exploration of mind-body practices and a deep personal commitment to living somatically. She is also the author of Inscribed, Your Body's Hidden Script, where she invites us to reconnect with the body as a powerful pathway to emotional healing, authenticity, and joy. In her episode, we'll explore why true healing requires more than mind alone, how safety, breath, and sensation helps us regulate and reconnect, and how cultural myths disconnect us from ourselves, and how learning to listen to the body can transform our decisions, relationship, and capacity for joy. Well, we're very excited to have Celia on to the show today. Celia, welcome.
Thank you, Peter. It's lovely to be here.
Yeah, likewise. I've had so much fun reading your book as you shared it with me, your book, Inscribed, Your Body's Hidden Script. And in your book, you're really outlining a guide for folks to sort of listen into their bodies. And you've outlined your own healing journey as how you've incorporated sort of that somatic psychology into your own life. And I'm really curious, and I want to start there about your own journey, because I know that it included a very critical moment where you sort of crashed out into the hospital. And that led you to this journey of somatic psychology. So share with our listeners really what led you to realize that the mind alone wasn't enough for healing.
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I think all of us when we work in this field, have our own story that's had led us to this point.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember thinking when I was 7 years old that I wish I didn't have a body. And I remember thinking that was a strange thought at the time, but I didn't have a clue as to why. And as I got older, what I realized is that I was actually really scared of the feelings in my body. Like it was, my thoughts were my thoughts. And I became super logical because I felt like the mind was a domain I've got my mind handled, right? I was smart enough, I was all the things. But the experiences, the feelings, the sensations in my body were just like, oh my God, that's danger zone. Don't go there. And from a very young age, that was my way of surviving. Just stay up here, stay logical. And in our school systems, that gets rewarded. Like, just be academic. So just sit still and don't wriggle around and don't get distracted, which is our body saying stuff. So I was like, okay, cool, got this nailed. And then there was a time when I was applying for this job, and on paper, it looked perfect. It ticked all the boxes. It was a psychology job, and it was with an organization that I loved, and it was in psychosocial rehab, which I was really excited about. But in my body, it was almost like it was trying to pull, it was saying, no, don't take it. Don't take this job. And I'm like, no. Like I had this whole tug of war going on. And of course, at that point in my life, my mind won, right? And I took the job. Anyway, you probably know where this is going. The moral of the story is that my body was right. All right. I got into the job. I started clashing with my boss who I'd studied with. And after about a year in the job, I got chickenpox. And I was like, yes, a week off work. I was so excited, But chickenpox turned into a completely different journey because within 4 or 5 days, I was starting to have trouble walking. I didn't know what was going on. The doctors were like, what's happening? And then I just blacked out and collapsed and ended up unconscious and got transported off to hospital. And I was in a coma for a week and I couldn't walk, literally lost capacity to walk or shower myself. I was absolutely helpless. And my mind was really foggy as well. And it turned out after an MRI that I had encephalomyelitis. which is inflammation of the brain and the spinal cord. So that's a big deal. Like a lot of people die from this, a lot of
Yes.
people don't recover. And all I could think of was, thank God I don't have to go to work. When I came to, like, I was like, I'm not at work. I'm so, like, and yet here I was unable to walk. So that was this kind of delusional phase I was in when I was in that space.
Yeah.
But that was a really interesting moment for me because I was trying to figure out how to get out of this job because my mind wouldn't let me leave for some reason.
Yes.
And my body just went, I'm checking you out. Like it was a super rare complication of chickenpox, 1 in 1 million. Like it was not like a garden variety disease.
Mm.
And so I was really curious about that. And that illness took me out of work for 5 years. I was written off. I didn't think I'd ever work again at one point. And another turning point that really clued me into my somatic journey was I tried to fix my body to get better, but I ended up giving up because I was walking at that time, but I still couldn't really function. And so I made a decision. I was like, I'm going to give up fixing my body,
Mm.
but there's got to be some freedom from the psychological prison of this. Like, because I couldn't work, my life became this big. And I started looking into meditation. I started doing coaching programs as a participant and really looking at what was going on internally. And interestingly enough, from that, my body started to actually improve.
Mm.
And I was just like, this is blowing my mind. Like, I was kind of feeling like it was all physical. And so this whole mind body connection was really apparent. And that was in my mid
Mm.
20s when I
Yeah.
was, so I was early in my career.
Mm.
And so from then on, I was much more willing to listen to my body. Still a bit stuck in my mind. It's been a long journey, Peter, I can tell you.
Sure.
Had to
Yeah.
hit a few walls before I really totally embraced, you know what, from now on, I let my body make the big decision because it always points me in the right direction. So I've shifted my axis. But that was how that was one of the turning points, if you like, for me was that illness around the mind body connection. Because it was amazing how it checked me out of this job that I hated because my mind was so strong, like I have to keep going, have to keep going at that point.
Yeah. You know what I really enjoy and I'm connecting with your story is that I too have had moments in my life where, something health-wise has come up. And the reality is that I really have to relinquish control for my body to sort of right itself, right? Our bodies so naturally want to autocorrect. It's a beauty of being human in our bodies. But our mind is so attached to control and trying to understand things that, you know, that part of relinquishing control or really just accepting that it can be very difficult to overcome.
Yeah. And it's a constant journey. Like
Right.
I feel like it's just constantly being willing to say, you know what's my body telling me right now? And
Yes.
bringing that into the conversation and then being going, okay, because my mind wants to have a plan, right? It wants to figure this stuff out. It wants to know what's going to come next. My body doesn't have a 5-year plan. It just doesn't. It's like in this moment, if this doesn't feel right. And
Mm.
I'm like, but in my mind, this works. And
Right.
I am just going, okay, now let me check in because there's a couple of really important points here.
Mm.
Your body is totally pro health. Like it's a natural organism, like a plant, like anything in nature. Like it just it's trying to guide us into what's going to give us our healthiest version of ourselves. We're not taught that in school about our bodies. We're kind of taught it's just this thing that carts us around. So to listen to it really helps heal emotions and work through issues and make big decisions in life. But there's a catch because sometimes when something doesn't feel right, it can be either one of two things. One is that it isn't right, and the other is that it's actually an old trauma trigger.
Mm. Doesn't suit us.
So it could be this doesn't feel right because I'm really anxious about going into groups, or this doesn't feel right because when I tried to depend on someone in the past, I got let down, so I'm not going to let myself go through that again. So it's sometimes hard to differentiate between what's an authentic, yes, this is right for me, and what is actually the past. But they're both good news because even if it's a past thing, it's your body trying to tell you this needs healing. It's your body showing you that actually this is limiting you right now, limiting me. I was
Mm,
hyper independent as a child.
mm,
I wouldn't even let my first boyfriend buy me a cup of coffee. I was like, I'm not going to owe anybody anything. I was that independent. And so
yes.
I was like this. I was blinkered. I was terrified of depending on people.
Mm,
Then I went into hospital, ended up getting sick,
mhm,
had nurses showering me. I was totally dependent. And that was a lesson I needed to learn. So this
mm,
hyper independence of I can't depend on anybody is actually showing me that's a trauma that needs to be healed,
mhm.
as opposed to what's right for me. So yeah, it's kind of like learning how to differentiate. But either way,
Sure.
your body's on your side.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? As I've read your book, you do a very nice job of establishing the work ahead. I don't think that you're sort of sugarcoating this where it's like, well, all I have to do is just tune into my body. You really explain, like, look, this is very difficult work. It is uncomfortable, but that is the work. When you start to feel the uncomfortable, that is the work to be done. And within practice, we can start to make that uncomfortable a little bit easier to get through.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is that's right. Because what we don't necessarily realize when our lives are just going on is that our ability to be with the uncomfortable absolutely dictates our life.
Mm,
It's like, I don't want to feel this way, so I'm going that way. I don't
mhm,
want, like from the career, from the person that we choose to be with,
mhm.
and from our own emotions. I don't want to feel my anger. So I'm going to choose somebody that's never going to challenge me in a relationship because
Mm.
I can't be with the uncomfortableness.
Uncomfortable.
So if you can be with the uncomfortable sensations in our bodies, if we can do that, we have such a freedom
Mhm.
to choose so many different ways of responding to life, to be able to feel all of life, to not be having the avoidance run us.
Mhm.
And so a lot of people that come to therapy or as professionals we work with come because they're bumping up against life demands more of me than my capacity to function is allowing me to. And it's a
Mhm.
lot because I can't handle what I'm feeling. And therefore, I've not been able to in the past make different choices. And through the therapy and the work we do, we try to help people broaden those capacities to choose. But we can't do it without using the working with the body because the
Mhm.
mind by itself is fantastic to a point. But when it comes to those emotional responses and the sensations in our body, we need to learn how to be with them, but be with them safely. And that's the
Mhm.
important thing. It's not to be overwhelmed. So that's the work. It is hard work. It is constant work. It is lifelong, but it is amazingly rewarding.
Yeah, I so appreciate you giving that perspective. And one of the ways that I've also maybe heard that perspective is that people are living with intention or with the guidance of avoidance, right? When I feel avoidance in my body, that's something I can lean into. And like you said, that sort of your body as your compass, as you've described it,
Mhm.
that is sort of like living with intention in that way.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's honestly, it takes courage.
Mm.
It takes humility. It
Mhm.
takes, that feeling that you have when you hurt someone else's feelings and the sensation for me, the sensations in my body are awful.
Mhm.
Like I don't want to be with that. So then I want to blame the other person.
Sure.
I'll pick something like that's a big thing for me. I'm like, if I'm
Mhm.
going like this out there, it's because I don't want to be with what's going on in here. So it's a good
Mhm.
signpost for me because it's kind of like a deflection, it's a distraction,
Sure.
rather than being with my own experience and going, okay. And this is also where it's really important to look at that resourcing and that inner child work. I think
Mm.
somatic work and inner child work is really important. They go together
Mhm.
because it is that younger part of us that floods us from a somatic perspective. It's the part
Sure.
of us that felt unsafe as a child. So it's kind of like, well, how do I look after that part of myself right now?
Yeah.
What resources do I need to support myself, to have compassion for that part of me
Mm.
that's just trying to survive in this moment?
Sure. Yeah, and I want to sort of park on that, right? Because you were trained as a psychologist, so in cognitive approaches, but you're also advocating that something is missing when the body isn't included in that healing process. So talk to me a little bit about inner child work and somatic healing. How are you incorporating those two together?
Yeah. So very early on, I noticed the limitations of cognitive behavioral therapy from my perspective.
Hmm.
I felt like it was just not enough. In terms of the child's inner child work, how I incorporate it is if someone's feeling a strong sensation in their body. So they'll be telling a story, let's say,
Mm.
or I might even start with the body and then the body sensations will come up. Either way, depends on where the client's at.
Yes.
But they might be feeling sensations in their body, emotions, and I will say sometimes I'll trust my instincts on it, and I'll say, "So, how old does that sensation feel? Is it familiar?
Mm.
If you Is this come up before?" And most times it will be yes, and then I'll say, "Well, when do you remember that starting to be an experience for you?" And it really does track people back. And then we start to see, okay, so what was the environment where that way of being helped you survive? That super independent or people pleasing or bit perfectionistic or whatever it was that's now suffocating you
Mm.
or keeping you isolated. Like, when was it actually a strong and functional part of you because you needed it? And
Yes.
so it then frames that sensation as not a problem, but actually a part of you that helped you out back in the day. But
Mm.
it's almost like that software needs to be updated now. Like that
Mm.
was
Mhm.
version 1.1. And now we're needing to get to version 5.2, but we have to do it slowly. And
Yes.
so that's where some of the ways that I bring the inner child work is to help people make friends with their sensations as well, rather than just have them be these things that flood them and they don't understand and get overwhelmed.
Mm. Yeah, and I noticed that in your book, you gently invite readers into this work because you explain that the sensations in our bodies are neutral, but our mind creates the emotional stories. So when we think you're talking about inner child work, when we're bringing people back to those moments, that is the emotionally charged part. But when you drop back into your body, it sort of neutralizes that experience into just the sensation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That takes some time because we're so used to fusing.
Mm.
We're so used to the thought, the emotion, and the sensation all being this tangled mess, and then it gets
Mm.
overwhelming. So I try to help people separate the okay, sometimes it'll be the thought that we start with, sometimes it's the sensation or the wherever the client is at. But it will be like, okay, so what's the thought you're having? And it might be so and so is an idiot, or whatever it is. Okay, so what's the emotion? I'm frustrated or I'm angry. Okay, so what's the sensation? I can feel the tightness in my chest. And so I invite people to say, okay, if we just look at the tightness in the chest and just breathe into it and notice, the size of that tightness. Is it like expansive? Is it? So I start getting people to really increase their awareness of the nature of the sensation.
Mm.
And if you can be with the sensation and breathe into it, then it clears and it doesn't get stuck. But if we stay in the emotion or the story, then we just do loops. And we can be on
Yes.
fire inside for hours and days, months, years, for like our whole life about something. But when we come back to the raw sensation, which is neutral, it might be unpleasant. So let's clarify. People go, it's not neutral, it's painful, it hurts. Yes, but it does not out to get you. It doesn't, it's actually just a natural response, just as joy is.
Mm. Mm.
Just or those flutters, those beautiful sensations, the tingles we get that we really like, or the little giggles in our stomach, or whatever it is, they're also neutral. So it's the whole rainbow. And then if we can be with a sensation without this reactivity to it, then that's how the body heals. That's how the body starts to go, oh, it's safe for me to let this go now because I'm no longer making my sensation the enemy. Now,
Mm,
having said that, Peter, it is not easy to do. And that's why we need to be gentle with ourselves and need to just do it in little moments.
mm,
Like Peter Levine's work with pendulating. We need to do it in little moments and go, okay, I can be with this now. And then the next minute it might be overwhelming. So then go and ground and just like let it go for a while.
mm,
So it's not like suddenly, oh, okay, now I've got this be with a sensation thing. I'm going to let my trauma go
mhm.
in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
It's hard because we're so used to reacting.
Mm,
The mind just loves to kind of have a drama to kind of like, this is bad, I'm bad, whatever the direction is. That or me or something's wrong. We love to have feeling of something's wrong because the mind doesn't know how to be with all of our experience.
mm. Yeah. Yeah. And one of the interesting things that I was reading in your book was when you were describing these sensations, right? Tightness in our chest, palpitations in our body, um, pain in different degrees, right? Is it a sharp pain or is it a dull, aching pain? It really got me to understand that we don't really have a good vocabulary for the sensations in our bodies.
Mm.
Just for our listeners, can you just give me an example of maybe some of the spectrums of sensations that they might be just curious about, and just give us a sense of what those sensations might mean?
Listen to that. What the sensations might mean. That's where the mind wants to be. That's
Mm,
the interpretation of the mind.
mm,
Okay, so what I want to say is that the sensations don't mean anything. They're just organisms. They're literally cells in our body moving around.
mhm,
They're unpleasant and they're all pleasant. And then we get overwhelmed by them if they're unpleasant and never want to feel that again. And then there's a situation where that might have happened. So then we make it mean if someone raises their voice, right? I can't cope because those
mm,
sensations flood up, as opposed to someone raised their voice. I felt unpleasant sensations, but I'm actually safe. I know I'm safe. And there's unpleasant, and then I can stay in the conversation.
mm,
But to come back to your original question about what sensations. So if you just think right now, if you feel your feet on the floor, right, you can feel the contact of your feet. And you'll notice there are different sensations in your heel, like perhaps there's a sense of pressure or maybe warmth, maybe coolness.
mm,
But if you move your awareness to the front of your foot and your toes, you might notice tingling. You'll notice there's not so much pressure on the arch of your foot as there is on the heel and on the ball of your foot. Like it's a whole world just in the foot. You might notice some tension. You might notice pressure from the shoe or whatever it is you're wearing. So, and then you just can move up your whole body and notice like there's things like tingling and pulsing more. So you've got things on the surface of your skin,
mhm,
and one's not better than the other. Some people think, oh, I need to go deep. No, no, no. A sensation is a sensation. So there's tingling in my fingers right now. There's pulsing. I can feel pulsing in my feet. I can feel the pressure of me sitting on this chair right now, and you could probably feel that too.
yes.
And actually, that's something I used to ground people. I'm like, give yourself full weight to the chair right now. Feel that.
Mm,
And feel like lean back into that. Let yourself feel that back of your chair. So that can be resourcing. And in our heads, it's so interesting. I had a client, I was doing a body scan, and he was like, I've done this sort of thing before, but I never included my head.
huh,
Sensations in your head. Like, and
mm,
literally, like, what does your brain feel like?
mm.
In
Wow.
your head, does it feel heavy? Like does it feel like it does it zip, zip, zip? Does it feel like it's achy across, like across
Mm,
here? Or, there's a pain in your lower back. All of them are sensations.
mm,
And what happens is we have stories about them. Oh, I've got a pain in my lower back because I hurt myself when I fell, blah, 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 blah. That may be true. But from a somatic perspective, the question I'll be asking someone potentially is, if you let go of that story right now, what does your back want to tell you? What does it have to say? How does it want to move? How does that sensation want to move?
Mm,
And does it want to curl up? Does it want to expand? Because, does it kind of just want to scream? "Arr," well, like just
mm.
letting that sensation have a voice without the story called, I'm going to dismiss this sensation because I know it's been from this accident I had. So I'm not going to listen to it. So that I really want to come back to the actual sensation, no matter what the story is in this moment, and let it have its say.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it's a different process of thinking than I am familiar with. Again, I'm just thinking about, my own experiences the other day. I'm at a show and I'm, sitting down in a chair, my back is aching. And I didn't even
Mhm.
think about what my back might be saying right now in this moment of how it wants to move or change
Yeah.
position. So it really creates kind of a different dialogue with my body.
That's right. And it's a dialogue of curiosity and teamwork and
Mm,
compassion. It's like my
mm,
back's actually a little uncomfortable right now. Okay, well, what does it need? Like just to treat all of the parts of you as your friend.
mm,
Because they're all trying to help. I mean, our bodies cart us around. They put up with a lot of what we eat. They put up with us not doing all the exercises we're supposed
mm,
to do. Like they're trying their very, very best.
mm,
And even the bodies that don't function well, where people have got illnesses, like I've had clients who have really kind of tapped into illnesses and really recognized that even the illness is not like the illness is trying to tell them something.
mm,
Like
mm.
about at what point are you going to prioritize yourself?
Yes.
Like at what point are you going to stop pushing?
Hmm.
At
Yeah.
what point are you
Sickness
going to
is our
start
chance to
listening
slow
to me?
down.
Yeah. At
Yeah.
what point are you going to start listening to me? Because your mind is constantly, and
Hmm.
the body's like, no, I can't keep up. Like, I'm trying, but I can't. We need to stop. We need to reset.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's such a beautiful dialogue that can be happening with our bodies if we're just open to receive it. So I know the first part of your book is really just trying to understand that language, right? And trying to understand that our body has a voice, and when we tune into it, we can communicate with our bodies a little bit differently. You're right. We don't always treat our bodies in the best way. We don't eat right. We don't might not necessarily exercise, but when we can kind of tune into our bodies, not only are you bringing us into the present, but you're also trying to encourage that there is a safety that we can cultivate within our body. So talk to me a little bit about that sense of safety and why that is essential before going deeper into more emotional or traumatic stories that we tell ourselves.
Yeah. The safety piece is the critical piece.
Mm,
And it's really sad that we don't feel safe in our bodies because we're born in one. It's the only home we've got for these number of years that we're on this planet.
yeah.
And yet we have these views of our bodies like we don't like this part, we don't like that, whatever it is, or we don't want to feel this or that. And also, our bodies are the most amazing tool to learn about life. Like as children, little children are use their whole bodies to learn about everything. They might be eating sand or whatever, but their whole body is part of how they learn about the world. And
Sure.
then we start shutting that down and we
Yes.
start going, no, 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 it's only the mind. And then the mind gets way too much power because it
Mm,
gets anxious. Because actually, the way I see the mind is like the worker bee trying to figure out how to get something done. But your body's the one that's wise to say this is the direction that's going to be fulfilling for us. Now,
yeah.
the safety question. I'm going to come back to that because I feel like I diverted a little bit there. But the safety question, when we get overwhelmed by an experience, and it can be as small as being forgotten to be picked up by at school, right? And you were the last kid there, all the way through to major abuse. Like there's a spectrum here. But
Yes.
either way, every single one of us has had experiences where we felt when we were kids, we were overwhelmed and we didn't have the tools or resources to handle that experience. Now, in that moment, our minds, not consciously, decided I never want to experience this again. I never want to feel these sensations in my body. And so then any experience after that that starts to mirror where those sensations might come up, we start avoiding it.
Mm.
So that has become a place where we feel unsafe in our body. And then something else happens, and then we'll avoid that because and so it goes on until our lives get quite shaped by the need to be safe.
Mm.
All of our lives are shaped by that, no matter whether we realize it or not. I need to feel safe. Now, when we start to reconnect with our bodies, a lot of people can feel either two things. One, totally disconnected. They can't feel anything. That's ultimate disconnect and I don't feel safe in my body. And the other is feel flooded. They're really sensitive and they get overwhelmed really quickly. Now, there's everything in the middle of that, but they're sort of the two elements of it. So we need to establish safety so that that experience that you had as a child that felt overwhelming, that you can touch that sensation. The story doesn't even matter, actually. But the sensation, if you can learn to be with that again safely and say, you know what, that's not happening anymore, or I'm now resourced, I'm an adult, I've got this. It's okay for me to feel this anger, or it's okay to me to feel this fear. Then that sensation starts to lose its power and starts to fade a little bit, and you get the freedom then to have more experiences in your life. You don't have to avoid that anymore. But it's about feeling safe to touch that unpleasant sensation. And that takes grounding, it takes breathing techniques, it takes going out in nature and just feeling the sun on your skin, like getting to know your body. It takes time to feel safe for all of us. I don't think there's anyone that instantly is going to go, right, I'm okay with every experience I have. I don't think it's any of us.
Yeah. Yeah, because you're saying that within practice and being able to tune into our bodies, those sensations become a little bit more familiar and we're able to maybe get to the other side of that sensation maybe a little bit quicker, right? It doesn't seem as scary or as intimidating.
If a
Oh,
sensation's not scary anymore, it's got no power to control your life.
yes. Yeah. And again, that's living with an alignment of using your body as a compass as you described, but also maybe like leaning into the things that we might be avoiding, right? And
Yeah.
and our lives become a lot larger as a consequence.
That's right. And also, one of the things I think is culturally reinforced that's not healthy for us
Mm.
is avoidance, actually. Like, let's just be distracted. We're always going to feel uncomfortable sensations. Like, I've had clients go, really? Wow, I don't realize now is actually uncomfortable sensations are normal.
Yeah.
And I don't have to
Mm.
run away from them anymore. And that was a revelation for them. Because we spend our time uncomfortable sensations, oh, I must be doing something wrong. Let me do something different. Instead of uncomfortable sensations, okay, that they're uncomfortable, but I'm committed to being here. This is part of my value system. I want to do this job or I want to be in this relationship or whatever it is. And so I want to learn how to be with this so I don't yell at my partner or I don't whatever. So I don't check out because I'm overwhelmed whenever, I hear something happen. So so it's actually learning how to broaden our capacity to be with all of our experience, which then gives us this beautiful engagement with life. Like you get to be more loving, more vulnerable, more soft,
Mm.
more joyful, and just be, yeah, in life more fully.
Yeah. Being in alignment with our true selves, right?
Yeah, all of
Yeah.
us,
Yeah.
all parts of us.
We'll be right back after a word from our sponsor.
Most of us spend more time at work than anywhere else doing anything else. So why not spend that time in a job you love? Introducing Triad's Jobs Marketplace, the only job site dedicated specifically to behavioral and mental health professionals. featuring more than 1,000 open jobs from dozens of behavioral and mental health employers, and searchable by location, professional field, employment type, specialization, and more. Jobs Marketplace helps you find your next career opportunity. Full-time, part-time, or gig time, make the most of your time. To access Jobs Marketplace, register for your free professional account at hellotriad.com/BHT. That's hellotriad.com/BHT, and then click to Jobs Marketplace. If you're already a member of the Triad community, visit app.hellotriad.com/jobs. That's app.hellotriad.com/jobs. Visit us today and take your next career step tomorrow.
You know, you've already given us a few of these cultural myths already, like pushing through or valuing ourselves through productivity. But I want to ask you, what are some of the common examples that you see? And how do these beliefs disconnect us from ourselves?
Yeah, such a great question. So, one of the beliefs is that my body's a machine that just gets me from A to B,
Mm,
and my mind is actually what's valuable. So, the mind being the valuable part of us, very destructive myth. Costs us our heart, our vitality, our
mm,
connection with others. And it makes us efficiency driven because that's a mental construct. Our bodies
mm.
don't give us stuff about efficiency, actually. So, that's one of the myths. The other myths that we have, and Gabor Mate talks a lot about this. I just love his work. Is the self-sacrifice.
Mm,
Like, I'm a good person if I am helping others, right? And I need to be selfless. And it's even reinforced with if you want to be happy, help other people and give, because that's what makes you happy.
mm.
Now, that's fine if you've got a full tank and you're resourced. But how many times have we all been like, oh, I can't, I'm exhausted.
Self-sacrifice.
Yeah, but I'll do it anyway. And then you end up resenting the other person.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, we've all done it, right? We've absolutely
Mhm,
all done it. But that's a cultural myth that has us constantly depleted
mhm,
and feeling like we're a bad person if we prioritize our own well-being and our own balance. And our bodies absolutely are trying to say to us all the time, come back here, balance, please. Like, just pause for a moment. And then when you give from a full tank, and then the resentment's not there.
mhm.
So this is one of the myths that I see happen a lot. And
Yeah.
the autoimmune diseases that Gabor Mate talks about, I've seen that a lot with people that like it's congruent with the clinical work that I do. I
Yes.
see that. So that's a really destructive myth that I see. And the work hard thing, like I am currently living in India at the moment, and it's too chaotic, right, to be efficient.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that about this place because it means you can't predict what time you're going to get somewhere because you
Mm,
never know what's going to happen along the way.
mm,
But
mm.
what that allows for is there's this spontaneity, there's connectivity. People are much more interested in connection and relationship and having a chat than they are in getting everything done.
Mm.
And so there's this aliveness. And we aren't I'm not living in my to-do list,
Yes.
which absolutely disconnects us. This constant predictability that we have in Western culture. I'm not saying it's completely, and I'm generalizing, I know, but
Yes.
we have this, I've got this meeting and I've got that, and I need to be this on time, blah, 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 blah. Sure, that sounds good, but it actually keeps us with a never ending sense of inadequacy
Mm,
and not in our bodies
mm.
because we're constantly feeling like we've got to get more and more done. In other cultures where it's a lot less predictable, you just got to surrender and just go be in the moment. And the body loves that because there's some presence.
Yes. Mm.
And it's really nourishing in that way. So that efficiency drive we have is really disconnecting.
Yes. Yeah, it can be. And, all these practices really kind of go back to a sense of presence, bringing us back into that current moment, living with intention.
There's actually something that's reminded me of, though.
Yeah, talk to me.
One of the things that I think is a real struggle that I see with us aligning is this relationship we have with time.
Mm,
Like, if I say to people, you need to commit a certain amount of time to practicing being in your body. People are like, I don't have time.
oh, yes.
I don't have time. I can't do more than a 2-minute practice. I'm like, do you really think 2 minutes once a week is actually going to give you what you need? Is that the investment in you that you deserve?
Yeah.
Like, we have this thing with time, which means we don't prioritize what nourishes us. And if you're going to do somatic work, like spoiler alert, you absolutely have to build a fence around your practices
Yes.
and make it part of your life, because so much of our life pulls us out of our body. Computers, technology, TV, busyness, it's all. So we have to protect coming back into our bodies. Otherwise, it's just too hard. And people don't want to do that because they're stressed. And I'm not saying that as a blaming people thing, but that's this whole busy culture thing, which is really not helpful.
Yeah, you even lay this out in your book, right? Of when we go into these practices, you want to create that fence where we're not confined by amount of time. It's really just being able to sit with that sensation and letting that sensation kind of dissolve. You use that word in the book. Let it dissolve in the time that it takes and not, be confined to 15 minutes of practice or something like that. Now, I know in the book you are actually outlining practices and you do kind of confine that 2 minutes because I think that that's just how our society works. And I think that that's a very nice, gentle introduction to it. But when people are doing these practices, how do you hope that they practice this?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So the practices in the book are designed to help people come home to themselves.
Yes.
So everything from a body scan, which is really increasing your awareness and your sensitivity to the sensations and learning how to be with them. And you don't need more than perhaps a 15-minute. That's fine for that. But if you want to hang out with it for a little longer, that's great. But if you're feeling overwhelmed after 2 minutes, then 2 minutes is enough.
Mm,
So how to practice it is to trust your body. Your body will tell you. Don't think, oh, this is a 15-minute practice. I have to be here for 15 minutes. When you're overwhelmed after 30 seconds and you've got sensations that are coming up that are too big, your body knows. So it's like, okay, if I'm starting to feel a little overwhelmed, I'm just going to pause, ground again, and come back later. That 2 minutes or that 30 seconds is fantastic. That's enough. So really acknowledging every moment. And then there's practices in there that are about movement and dance, because not everybody's a meditator. Not everybody's going to sit there and can be in their own skin. I struggle with it a lot. So movement, conscious dance, things like that. Put some music on, but instead of having steps you have to learn and being all performance based, close your eyes, take a breath, and just go, how do my fingers feel like they want to move right now? And listen, like my mind is in my fingers right now. How do they feel the world? How do they want to move right now? And then let your arms follow that. And, and then your head and so just really it's a very intimate practice, the movement meditation with the music, because you're connecting with yourself. It's exquisite. So there's lots of different types of practices in it. And how to do them is just to be listening to your body and just pacing it in whatever feels like it's manageable for you.
Yeah, I really appreciate the perspective. Again, we can get so critical on ourselves. There's a whole ego that we have to get through in order to, invite ourselves to practice. But when you take it in that sense and be gentle with ourselves and have compassion, I think it really kind of reframes that whole practice, right? And really just giving yourself a chance to kind of come back into the present and really connect with our bodies in great ways that then can be built upon. You know, they talk about how meditation is a practice. Meditation can be really hard to be able to sit in silence, but you're
Mm.
also offering that there are many different practices that involve movement or involve music that too can invite this reconnection with our bodies. And, you know, for some, this is the first time that they're learning about it.
Yeah, that's right. And the beautiful thing about it is it's what does your body crave and want to
Mm,
do? Like, and when do you feel resourced? Like sometimes someone will just look at the sky and just feel suddenly like, oh, I feel relaxed now. I feel like I can breathe.
mm,
Someone who might be lying on the grass.
mm,
You know, someone that might just be in a quiet corner where there's no, it's just no noise, no whatever. Other people, it's like thumping, pounding music that's just like with a beat that's going through their whole body. So it's really how does your body want to be expressed? Because all of us have different stories and everybody has had its own journey, and so it's not one size fits all. So I offer quite a lot of grounding exercises before we go into the practices. And I'll say, find what works for you because before you start this work, you need to know how to come back to safety.
mm.
And so that's the part of the exploration that we need to start with. And that's really important to be listening over here.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, we talked a little bit about, you know, integrating somatic awareness, but I'm kind of curious, how do you envision or maybe just imagine integrating this somatic awareness into everyday environments like workplaces or parenting? What might that look like?
Yeah, that's a really great question. So if we talk about workplaces,
Hmm.
it's taking a moment to feel your feet on the ground.
Mm,
When you're feeling like you're getting a headache, you're like, okay, I'm getting a headache. I notice that sensation. And what is it like? Maybe I need to go for a walk right now. Maybe I need to go and get a glass of water. Maybe I've been forcing myself to concentrate for so long. Perhaps you're feeling anxious in a meeting because you've got a
yeah.
presentation or there's a staff member that you don't like or you feel nervous around. Like just notice, I don't feel safe right now. Notice what the sensation is in your body. So when you don't feel safe in your body, and we all have those experiences, those people that we feel like really ooh about, even if we have never said it out loud to them.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, let me just ground myself. Sometimes I'll, just put my hands on the table and just just grip on the table for a little bit, feel that pressure. Again, press my feet into the ground, feel my breathing. So it's really just acknowledging and being gentle. Well, because it's most likely come from the past. It's most likely something that's not to do with this person, even if this person definitely feels annoying. It's still my reaction belongs to me, and how do I look after me in that moment?
Mm,
So in the workplace, it's just it's noticing and resourcing yourself with your breath or with grounding or whatever it is that you need.
yeah.
With what was the other one you mentioned?
Parenting. Talk to me a little bit about how it
Parenting.
might be applied to parenting.
Parenting is really, really fabulous because as parents, it's hard for them to resource themselves, right? And it's all about the kids. So, from a somatic perspective, it's like listening to when you're exhausted, listening to the sensations when your child is upset or something's happening and you start to feel overwhelmed because you just feel and you just want to hurt back again or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Taking a step back, literally taking a breath. The breath is a fantastic place to go, okay, I'm out of my window of presence here, or I'm just feeling like I'm not really grounded. So let me look after myself. And where possible, like, of course, there's stuff you need to deal with the child in that moment, but just taking a very small pause and acknowledging, I'm just in this moment going to do damage control. So I'm just going to sort of say to my child something like, we need to do X, but I'm going to take myself away and I'm going to just ground for a second, take a breath and work out what I really need from my child in this moment rather than what are you doing that for again? I've told you 1,000 times, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
And creating that unsafety for the child. The other thing with parenting that's really beautiful with somatic work when children are really little is when you're holding your child, you get to feel your breath and feel their body next to your body. The co-regulation
Mm.
is exquisitely beautiful when we're present to it.
Mm.
When we're not on our phones or we're not on the, I have to get the thing done over there to cook dinner, or I have to prepare for work, and the child becomes a nuisance or something that's in the way that you have to get done. But when you can just breathe with your child when they're on your lap or when you're hugging them and feel that co-regulation, it is exquisite for both you and the child because that's full presence. You are giving yourself the gift of being fully present with this little person that is a miracle, and that is a big gift for them as well.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, I so appreciate you sharing. You've really kind of unlocked a few things. Going back to your example of the workplace, right now at my station, I have a couple of things. I have these beads, and these
Mhm.
beads are sort of my tool when my body is ready to move around, or just an opportunity. It's my signal to breathe in back into my body. I sort of like go like rosaries almost, and I'll go through
Mhm.
and I will just breathe. The other thing that you're also unlocking is I've never thought about how a hug can help co-regulate with another person. But
Mm.
me and my wife will embrace, and that is an opportunity. The other practice I've also heard is, and I think it's a good practice as well for parents, is when there's a moment where they might be getting taken away from their emotions, the parent can take a moment, turn the opposite direction, and breathe. And they know as a child that when mom is turned around, she needs to take a moment. And hopefully the reaction is a positive one to where they're not exploding, but they can kind of come back from a grounded place. And I appreciate the words that you're also suggesting of just how am I trying to connect with my child right now, right? These can be little mantras that can give us ourselves that extra pause so we can show up in that moment for our children differently than, letting our emotions sort of take us away.
Yeah, that's right. And we often are very critical with ourselves as parents too, and that's really hard. We have so much
Mm,
expectation to be the perfect person for our parents. But in reality, we often internalize and treat ourselves the way our parents treated us
mm,
because that was the voice that we have. So we have a lot to kind of be compassionate with ourselves. So we do need to take that moment of compassion. I love that idea of just turning for a moment.
mm.
Okay, and then coming back, more presence, less up here and more present. I think that's a really beautiful idea. And I love your beads. Yeah, because that's very visceral. It isn't
Yes.
somatic, it's very
Yeah.
visceral.
Yeah.
And so you get to kind of like just have that, yeah, that reminder to be in your body. Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's a nice little reminder. Um,
Yeah.
as we start to come to a close with our talk today, I really want to ask you, what do you hope readers walk away with after they've finished Inscribed? In terms of maybe their relationship with their body, themselves, or others, what do you hope that they walk away with?
Yeah. I hope that they walk away with a real sense of the body is on their side,
Mm,
that their bodies are this extraordinary well of wisdom that wants them to thrive and is showing them where the healing needs to happen, not from a space of like blame. There's no blame in the body. It's just like, please be with me because I don't want to be limited anymore. So these sensations that come up, it's like if you learn how to be with me, then we can play in life. We can be fully engaged in life. We can have healthy relationships. We can be centered in ourselves. We can be full of joy. We can
sure.
trust the moment. So all of those things are things I would like readers to gain from Inscribed, and that sense of changing the trajectory of how they make decisions in their lives instead of the pros and cons list,
Mm,
actually tuning in here and saying what feels authentic and aligned, mind body. Because often we've got this little minor tug of war going on where it's kind of like, well, the mind says this and the body's a little bit like, I feel heavy when I think of that option, or I feel blah. Well, how do we align so that you're all of you is a yes to this? So there's some of the things that I would love people to walk away with. And for specific tools, like you have a toolkit from reading this book.
Yes.
And that is my intention, that you have the tools. It's not just the words, because your body doesn't respond to just the words. Your body needs to feel it. You need the tools and you need to take the time to do the practices. So that's what I'd love you to get.
So I so appreciate those words. And, I think about how we are designed with such intelligence, right? We are beautifully and wonderfully made. And along the way in our lives, we sort of get dinged up. But what you're offering is a path for us to sort of rediscover our true selves, right? When we can kind of tune back into the present, we can tune back into our bodies, we realign with our true selves, and we can experience the full spectrum of emotions, maybe without such intensity, but ultimately be able to experience more joy and fulfillment out of this.
Yeah, that's really beautifully put. That's right. That authenticity. So this is a book around somatic healing, but it's actually mind, spirit, body integration. It's all of it. And that is the reality of being human, and that's the magic. But it doesn't happen until we feel fully connected to our bodies.
Yeah. Thank you. As we wrap up today, where can our listeners learn more about you and your work and your book, Inscribed, Your Body's Hidden Script?
Yeah, so people can find me on my website, which is somaticpsychologyinternational.com. You'll have information about the work that I do as well as with the book. And on Amazon, you will find Inscribed as well.
Fantastic. I'm hoping that our listeners will have a chance to explore more and see for themselves the book that you've written. Well, for today, Celia, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with me.
Thanks, Peter. It's been fantastic.
And I want to thank you, our listeners, for taking the time to join us. You can follow us on our social media at Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, and more at Behavioral Health Today. If you like our show, give us 5 stars and leave us a review. And as always, the resources for this episode and an archive of all of our other episodes can be found on our webpage at triadhq.com/BHT. And we look forward to having you back with us next time on Behavioral Health Today. We appreciate all the support from our community, and if you like our show, one of the best ways you can support it is by giving us a 5-star rating and leaving a review. Behavioral Health Today is a podcast part of the Triad Behavioral Health Network, all rights reserved.